Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to support Councillor Cleary's motion here of looking at an expert panel on this issue. My colleague to the left of here, Councillor Manzini, has already very forcefully indicated, as is Councillor Cleary's motion, that this isn't committing us to a specific action at this time. This is about putting together a panel and having the conversation as a community. We've been repeatedly asked by our Aboriginal community, have indicated loudly that this is an issue for them, and I think we have a duty to consider that. Questions of history and identity, these are not easy discussions to be had, but that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. I don't see this as about eliminating history or rewriting history, as Councillor Mason has already kind of alluded to, that history isn't just some static thing. If you had gone to a university decades ago, you certainly wouldn't have found very much history about women's history or the history of people who weren't. It's part of the kind of the social, the upper class. History was once just the history of the privileged part of society, and that has changed with time. History isn't just a set of facts; it's a reflection of how we see ourselves and how we look at our society and how we look at the past as well as the present. I think you look at the Cornwallis statue, having it just show up here in the 1930s, kind of indicates that as well, how that has changed with time. For me, I think what's important is that Cornwallis is become a symbol. It's not just, he's not just a historical figure. And you look at the situation of our Aboriginal Canadians today, and this isn't just some forgotten piece of history, some ancient battle between Normans and Saxons or Romans and Carthaginians. It's a current issue, because I was pulling some information just in preparing for this about, you can pick pretty much any social indicator you want, and Aboriginal Canadians are measurably worse off than the rest of us. They make about 10,000 less than non-Aboriginal Nova Scotians. 18.5% of them live in substandard housing compared to 9.9% of the rest of the population. 28% don't have a high school education compared to 19%. University rates are half. Unemployment, 15.5 versus 9.1. Life expectancy, 73 years versus 79 years for Aboriginal men. They're 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 5 to 6 times more likely to be murdered, make up a disproportionate share of our prison population. In one of the richest countries in the world, we have reserves without proper drinking water. That's a national disgrace. The last residential school, as Councillor Cleary alluded to, didn't close until 1996. This is not history. There are people still alive today who are in residential schools. They didn't get the vote until 1960, and to my knowledge, no Aboriginal has ever had a chair around this table. So there is work to be done. Cornwallis is unfinished business. It's wrapped up in the issues of the present and the past are all together on this. And we made a statement of reconciliation. I wasn't on the council at the time, but I remember the reporting afterwards where, you know, the wording of it, you know, a new partnership with our Aboriginal community. And I remember there was some annoyance expressed that the media that day was more focused on donaires than this statement of reconciliation. Well, if we're not willing to even have a conversation about how we commemorate names when we've been asked by our Aboriginal community, if we're not willing to even do that, then the media probably had it right, and donaires was the important story of that day. Unless we're willing to put some action behind the statement, then they are just words. So I'm happy to support this, and I hope that everybody else will as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams.